Hello, I'm Bryan Hutcheson, Sheriff of Rockingham County and the City of Harrisonburg, and thank you for joining me for this week's segment of the Rocktown Crime Report on rocktownnow.com. Today is Friday, January the 24th. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. If you watched the last segment, you saw where we addressed the question of the week, which was, what is the difference between a police department and a sheriff's office? We touched on the first part of that, which centered around operations. And as you can see here, we talked about the two elements that all police departments generally have is patrol and investigations. All sheriff's offices are responsible for civil process and court security and transportation, and some sheriff's offices are responsible for the jail. And in that segment, we went over kind of a review of the jail numbers here at Rockingham-Harrisonburg Regional Jail for 2024. And now we're going to touch on some of the year in review numbers for one of the other responsibilities that we have as a sheriff's office, as all sheriff's offices do, which is civil process, like you just saw. So let's take a look, as you can see here, some of our numbers from 2024. And this is just a sampling of some of the numbers from our civil unit in 2024. A total number of civil papers served was 25,726. And just a few, not a complete breakdown, but a few examples of some of the papers that they served last year. 2,661 city taxpayer papers, 1,996 warrants in debt, 8,262 Commonwealth attorney subpoenas, 348 evictions, and 51 repos. So again, not a full breakdown, but the total number of papers served, 25,000, over 25,000, almost 26,000 for the year. A lot of civil papers that they serve in a relatively small unit. And again, that unit covers, as a sheriff's office, we cover the city and the county. So let's move on to that part two of our question of the week. So we kind of touched on that operations part of it. And then the second part we wanted to touch on is kind of the administrative part of it. The administrative part of it is difference in that question, the difference between a police department and a sheriff's office. Well, administratively, a police department has a police chief, and that chief is generally appointed by a council or a board of some form that is elected. For a sheriff's office, the sheriff's office is headed by the sheriff, who is elected. So really, administratively, it's just a matter of, it's political. There's an element of politics. It's just, for a police department, it's generally kind of indirect, in that you're appointed by an elected board, and a sheriff is directly elected by the citizens. So really, that's the key administrative difference. You have an appointed chief by an elected board, or you have a sheriff elected directly by the citizens. So kind of an interesting difference, be it direct or indirect. There is that element into the administration of politics. And so wanted to touch on that. Well, there's a third part to the answer, kind of more of a kind of what I call a combined effect. So we'll go to part three of that answer next week, but just wanted to shore up that part from the top, how it's run administratively. There is a difference there. For my own self, I'm elected. I'm up next for election in 2027. And so, I'm not too shameless to throw a quick plug in for that. I love my job. I appreciate the support. And, not too soon to say I'll be on the ballot. So check Hutcheson for sheriff in 2027. If you don't mind, keep me employed, right? That's the name of the game. Love what I do. Honored to serve the community. So for me, it's a direct political connection. Again, for a police department, it's a little more indirect with the board or the council, whatever the case might be. So anyway, that's that. The next thing I wanted to touch on is a quick weather deal. So we haven't had around here the past really couple of winters, we haven't had a whole lot of snow. There hasn't been much of that, but as you've known, over the past couple of weeks, we've had two pretty significant little doses of bad weather, cold weather, including the snow. And one thing I wanted to point out, and this is not so much from a legal standpoint, but just from a safe driving standpoint, is it's almost been, I don't want to say it's been comical, but it's been remarkable to see a lot of vehicles traveling around over the past couple of weeks with just very little windows where the snow was cleared off the windshield and the rest of the vehicle is snow covered. And so I just wanted to touch on that and point that out, to take that extra time. I know, I guess maybe the thought is once I start driving, the snow will blow off. But as cold as it's been, what happens is a lot of times it freezes. And then you get a hard chunk of frozen snow or ice that can either, for one, fall off your vehicle and obstruct your own view and prevent you from operating safely on the highway, or it can blow off your vehicle and hit another motorist and obstruct their view, or perhaps even with some of the ice and as cold as it's been, perhaps even damage their vehicle. So take that extra time. And I had to give this message to my youngest son also. Actually, I gave him the brush that I had, and so I needed to get a new one. Well, here's what I did. I got a visual aid. So I got a new one. This one's a nothing too fancy, but it's kind of nice in that it extends to reach, and then it'll also swivel to either brush or kind of scoop. It'll swivel and extend. And what that's, again, not to make this a lecture or anything, but you start with the top of the vehicle, get the snow off, you work your way on down to the windshields and side windows and rear windows, and just take a few extra minutes to clear off those vehicles of all that snow. Because again, I know it sounds like, maybe I'm being a Scrooge about it, but it really has been. And several of my folks have commented about how a lot of the cars driving down the road just had a little small window. The side windows are covered with snow and ice. The rear windows covered with snow and ice. And you got this little box you're looking through. Well, that's just not safe for you or for the motorists around you. This one right here, another thing I wanted to point out, I got it at CVS for $14. So, I've seen them at Food Line and Walmart and other things for like 10, but a nice little scraper, brush, all of that scoop type of thing, what was just a simple $14 for a pretty nice one there. And again, a few extra minutes really can help the overall safety of your travels, especially when the roads are bad enough. We don't need anything else interfering with that. So again, not to make it a lecture, just wanted to make a point of observation over the past. Hopefully we don't have a lot more snow this year, but having that in the back of your car, it's cheap and you're ready if you do need it. And we want you to travel safely on the highways and the other motorists too. So just a quick point there. Another point I wanted to make is I think we're going to stick with the every other Friday. It's a good format for us. I think it's a good format for Rocktown. So we'll try to keep these segments coming every other Friday, which means we'll do our next segment on Friday, January the 31st. We'll follow up on the third part of the question. And we touched on operations and administration, differences between a police department and sheriff's office. Well, that's a great question that came in. So we'll get in one more point of that, which again is kind of the combined effect we'll touch on then, and maybe have some more year-end numbers or some other things. Actually, maybe we'll look at the court numbers, the other key element of the sheriff's office that all sheriff's office perform. Maybe we'll look at the numbers from 2024 for that, touch on that, finish up the question. And again, hey, we really appreciate you tuning into this segment of the Rocktown Crime Report. We'll see you next time.